Okay, we're in Santa Clarita City Hall, about to go into the Santa Clara River Steering Committee meeting. And this will be one of several meetings that they've had in regards to Measure W and how the funds, taxpayer funds, will be used in moving forward with certain water projects. Today's meeting, it's all right. Today's meeting, March 5th, is in regards to monitoring systems and how that's going to look moving forward. In some areas, such as Lake Hughes, Lake Elizabeth, the monitoring that has been taken place has been costing property owners up to $40,000 in regards to their septics and in regards to their own personal properties, septic systems, and monitoring systems, and it's cost up to $40,000 to some residents. So this is very important to Acton and Agua Dulce, and how this is going to look moving forward. So today, Town Council member Jackie Eyre is here to discuss monitoring in Acton. We'd like to see that the voting delayed today, which we don't know if that will happen by the committee, or at least waiting to monitor in Acton to vote on that until Acton residents can learn more about this, maybe have a representative come out and talk about how this is going to look, how our taxpayer money, how the funds are going to be used, and explain it better to Acton residents. So we're hoping they will delay that. So that's why we're here today, and we'll see what happens. We do have Mary Johnson from Agua Dulce, who is who's on the board, but I believe she is here as a backup, as an alternate for someone on the board. She is not on the committee as a committee member, but as an alternate. I believe that's the case, but she's the only one from that area that's represented on the board. There is no one from Acton represented on the board, and we'll get more into that in the article. I did send an email in regards to the lack of representation of Acton. Excuse me, and I was given a response that was a little dismissive, and I'll relay that in the article as well. I'll let you know the response I was given on that. The other thing you'll notice is many of the committee members' backs are to the audience, which in itself speaks volumes.
Meet again to talk further about it. So that was a brief ex parte communication. As a result of that February 20th conversation, myself and other county staff involved with the EWIN effort, and Darren Hernandez and Darren Segmuller, who is also the city staff involved with the USCR EWIN efforts, we met earlier Tuesday of this week. We clarified some of the graphs associated with the SID tool that CJ had shared at the last meeting, because there's a lot of numbers and bells and whistles there. And then I confirmed that the county, in addition to Hasley, is still planning to pursue a couple more projects that were identified in the Upper Santa Clara River EWIN fund, namely Pico Canyon Canyon Park and Jake Perigian Park. And then there'll be green streets coming later as well. But the timing of it is that the county would not be ready to apply for the second year. It would probably be coming back for the third year. The county plans to match all of its project requests, at least 50%. We would not ask for more than 50% for any project because we're trying to get the points to make sure we qualify for the funds. And then I also indicated to city staff that my recommendation to my county administration and management is that the county self-regulate ourselves on future funding requests to be roughly proportionate to the funds generated within the area, which for this area is roughly 30%, unless circumstances warrant otherwise. And then I also shared our city and county's understanding of the benefits associated with the regional bacteria study, and we also supported the conditions requested by the Acton Town Council. The county supports the conditions requested by the Acton Town Council regarding monitoring locations and community engagement prior to any detailed proceedings. And it's built into the scope of work that there is a part of the scope is community engagement. There's a fund, dollars associated for that. And so that's what I discussed with them.
In addition, we, to all that I agree with all that, we shared that another project we anticipate bringing forward in future years would be at future Via Princesa Park on the eastern side of the city, a similar project to what is proposed at Newhall Park, probably on and we also inquired of the county's interest in potentially pursuing joint projects, either wholly in the unincorporated area that benefit both the incorporated and unincorporated area, or within the city that would benefit both areas of the watershed. And there was agreement that once we cycle through these projects that we have now planned, that there is an interest in pursuing those potential joint opportunities that benefit both benefit properties in both areas of the Wasc. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I want to make sure we have.
Get to getting a handle on human waste, because it's the human waste that causes the illnesses in the water. And right now, in the program that our regular monitoring for bacteria, we use the so-called fecal indicator bacteria standards, and they're targeting everything with those. And through the years, we refined it down. We started with total coliform, then we went to fecal, and now it's E. coli. And the monitoring in this study will continue with the fecal indicator bacteria, because the plan or the standards right now are based on that. And we're going to be monitoring for various human markers to try to really get at the human poop that you don't want in water. And so there are some, I think I may have mentioned a couple when I was here before. There's one called HF183, which has been used in a study down in San Diego County, and also used by SQUIRT. It's called the BITE study along the coast. That's a DNA kind of based thing. Then there's one that we're also looking at in the watershed for which I'm a consultant. It's called bacteriophage MS2, and it's actually a surrogate for norovirus. So we're trying to get at the viruses, not just the bacteria, because that's what makes people sick most of the time, is the viruses. So, and there are some others going on, and some of them I can't pronounce the names of, but I've been doing some research that's coming out of Canada, Australia, Stanford, some of the other universities. And part of that research is tied to something the regional board staff wants. In addition to this data, what they really want to find out about is what the thresholds are that are risk thresholds for this, like in HF183, bacteriophage MS2, and we'll probably end up with a sort of a package of different markers that relate to different circumstances. because some of this is monitoring along the coast, so that's going to be saline water, and some of it's inland waters, which is going to be fresh water. So we got, I think I used that map the last time I was here showing that something like 16 of the 19 wind and E-wind groups that got what are called total maximum daily loads for bacteria now, with deadlines coming up. And some of them are passed on a couple of things along the coast. So the monitoring is going to be really focused on the bacteria. So it's not going to deal with the metals, it's not going to deal with nutrients, it's not going to deal with all this other stuff. And so it will be some of the same, the fecal indicator stuff, which the city's monitoring for now, or the program is. But then we're going to get into those human markers and some measurement of the actual pathogens themselves. But the problem with doing those is they're very expensive to try to get norovirus itself or some of the other pathogens. So just the monitoring for that will be limited, but it'll be needed, I think, to test against the surrogates. Because we need to have those markers that get us at the human sources, because that's what's making people sick. So that's the focus. Thank you. And I apologize for having to leave. I'm going to two Wasc meetings and they're at the same time. An hour apart in location.
I told Jacqueline she had questions she wanted to ask before you left that she could. Could I ask both of you to go up front to save my neck? So that I can.
Yeah, both of you can me too.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Is this good enough? Oh, no, I guess
Sure.
everybody, okay. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
this question is triggered based on what Mr. Hamamoto just said. He pointed out that the study you're proposing includes an element of community outreach and so on and so forth, which we understand, but in our experience over the last, I don't want to say how many decades, there's a big difference between approving and funding a project and then getting community input on it after it's funded versus before it's funded. And so, as you know, we've asked for not funding for monitoring in our community until that work is done first. So the question I have for you is, if our request is not carried, if it doesn't succeed, and you come and talk to our community about the monitoring, like your program says, and we say we want X, Y, Z, and you say, well, we're planning on doing A, B, C, and they're very different, how does our community input have to wait when you've already been approved for doing what you want to do?
Well, we've been approved in the general sense, and as I mentioned earlier, the actual scope of work, the way this is designed, and I think you've read the proposal, the way it's designed in that stakeholder group will have people from representing all of the different groups that help fund it, the regional boards, the NGOs, you guys will be involved. So we will involve you, and that's when the scope gets determined. We don't have the detailed scope yet. We've had experience with similar studies where particularly the environmental community and the regulators have pretty strong ideas about what they need to have. And so we need to have everybody at the table. One of the things I just mentioned is that the focus of this, and I don't think folks are on storm drains out there. So it's likely we're not actually going to be monitoring your area because we are focused on the MS4 system. So we're looking at where the storm drains are, where those discharge into the receiving water, which in this case is the river. And that to make it parallel to all the other places. So I think we'll, as I said, I think we'll probably bracket, and I would guess we would have 2 to 4 sampling points out here, but one upstream, one downstream, and something in the middle. And we'll work this out with the proof that's involved here. So I don't think we're actually going to be monitoring. I'm not sure how far upstream you are, because I don't know this area very well. But I doubt if we're going to be monitoring very close to you, because we need to focus right here.
But the point is, my question is, being at the table and getting what you want when you leave the table are two very different things.
Well, that's also true for the people who are proposing to do the study. As I mentioned last time I was here, the group was working about 18 couple of months trying to figure out what needed to be done. And I don't think we're going to end up with what I perceive to be the case either. We're going to have to find, I don't want to say happy medium, but someplace in the middle that supplies the information that's necessary, which, as I say, focuses really on the MS4 and the requirements that we have to meet, and concerns that communities have. It won't be just your community, it'll be other folks who have ideas too. So I don't know that I can say exactly how that's going to happen. That steering committee, once it's formed, is going to vote on the scope. But I'm not writing the scope. You know, I'm not going to be doing the study either. I'm just representing the group that asked for it. And so, in fact, I need it for watersheds in which I work. So it'll be that group that decides on the scope.
Yes, and that group, the steering committee, I looked at the technical makeup of it, it's academia, scientists, so on and so forth. And I think one or two community stakeholders, so they're.
And we can add to that community stakeholders. I think we said last time we want to be sure you guys are involved, so I don't know how much time you want to spend on a stakeholder meeting, but we'll make sure that you're not totally left out.
Okay, all right, thanks, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's an open type of application process. And it actually seems to me that the mindset is city, county, and you guys divided the money up very nicely. But I'm hoping, honestly, you guys have been very uninventive. Dig a hole, put in some filtration, and, and put something over it, and it's a project. There are so many ways of capturing and treating stormwater than just that. And honestly, I'm hoping that you have a lot of wonderful creative people in the county and in the city, that they will come up with some better ideas. I mean, even the wildlife waste station used hugelkultur, and Disney Ranch uses hugelkultur. The city of Phoenix put a lake in the middle of the desert to capture their stormwater. Irvine created a field and made it a wetlands to treat their water using plants and, getting out the solids. And I'm thinking, we're digging holes for water to filtrate. So I'm hoping that somewhere along the line, if the city and county are not going to come up with something, that somebody else will step in and say, you know what, we have a good idea. And so it's not just the city and the county dividing up the pie. There needs to be room for, if you're not going to make a good pie, that we have someone else come in.
And that opportunity will exist once the watershed coordinator is.
Or even before.
Okay, anything else on, well, we do have a speaker on 5B, Jacqueline.
Can we go to the front or to the
Please. Yeah, it's helpful, sorry.
I hadn't planned to mention anything on this topic, but what I'm hearing is a little bit of concern. I've gone through, Measure W, I've gone through the ordinance that was passed, and a lot of the restrictions and things that we're talking about aren't actually written down in these sort of statutory language, and that seems to be something of a policy, which I don't have a problem with, except that what we're about to ask for under a different item is that conditions be placed on whatever you approve. Now, I don't see that as a scope change, because the scope, as we heard today, hasn't even been set up, but it could be construed to be that. So I'd like to understand specifically, are these policies? Because I'm not, the things you're talking about and restrictions and all of the things that have been discussed, I don't see actually written anywhere in anything that's been adopted, by a governing, this board supervisor. So you don't have to answer the question now, other than to clarify to me whether or not what I've heard today is going to be an impediment to the town council at least getting what we're asking for, if this body is willing to grant it.
Yes, so I just have a little comment on that. There's, when this whole stormwater investment plan gets approved by this committee, it's still has the regional site committee, and within that transmittal, we will be providing comments from the public and letting you know that their voices were also heard within the
scientific study.
Yes, my name is Jackie Ayer, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the Acton Town Council, specifically on the Utilities Committee Chairperson. A lot of what is proposed in this project is important work. DNA markers, identifying properly what it is that we want to monitor and make sure that we are going after the right target analyte. That's all important work. But there's a lot in this project that's very vague and undefined. The implications and the consequences of the monitoring, and especially the modeling aspects of this proposed project, are too substantial for the community of Acton to support at this time. That particular element of monitoring and modeling within our community of Acton. Specifically, we do not see how the proposed monitoring and modeling will provide a clear path to proper source identification within our community. And we know with certainty that the project proponents are incapable of distinguishing contributions from institutional septic systems located in the riverbed in our community and residential septic systems located miles from the river. And because of that, we do not support the monitoring and modeling elements of this project if it occurs within the community of Acton. The Utilities Committee of the Acton Town Council has committed to working with the County Flood Control District. Specifically, we've had discussions with Mr. Hamamoto. And we've committed to developing a monitoring and modeling program in Acton that will be capable of properly distinguishing between sources and that can provide accurate and verifiable source apportionment profile. But until this happens, and until we are confident that the model will accurately reflect the spectrum of source types in Acton, we cannot and we do not support any monitoring or modeling activities in or near Acton. Because of this, the Acton Town Council respectfully requests that the project, before it is approved, be conditioned to preclude monitoring and modeling in or near the community of Acton, and that no funding for such activities be approved by the Wasc until they are conducted with the consent of the community. Just in the last 24 hours, the Acton Town Council has received more than 25 emails on this issue, which indicate that the residents of Acton are solidly in support of our position in this request. We have also received 5 emails asking that similar consideration be provided to the community of Agua Dulce. There's already a sitting member of the Agua Dulce Town Council on Ms. Wasc, so I'm sure she can speak for her community. But it's important that you know that both Acton and Agua Dulce residents have reached out to the Acton Town Council and expressed substantial concerns with the modeling and monitoring elements of this project if they occur within the community of Acton. I also wanted to convey that the implications of this project are so substantial for our community, and I tried to convey those implications a couple of meetings ago. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask what it specifically is we're concerned about, but I don't have time to say. So those concerns are so substantial that we will pursue every avenue available to us to protect our interests on this. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'm going to, for discussion purposes, because we picked one of the past again, based on the comments that we had received as of last meeting, I prepared a draft. The committee can move and approve whatever the committee's desires, but a draft motion of approval if it is the desire of the committee to approve the scientific study. If it's the desire of the committee to deny it, then it's just a motion to disapprove or deny, and it's that straightforward. Two things I would note though, and let me read it for the benefit of everyone. It's and again, this is just my thought on based on the input that we've received as of the last meeting. What a motion of approval may want to include. It is I make a motion to fund the Santa Clara River watersheds portion of the regional scientific study to support protection of human health through targeted reduction of bacteriological pollution in an amount not to exceed $419,629. That's the total amount. The first year amount would be $111,000 right, 900, or 397. So that's what the amount would be for the first year. With the requirement that the consultants preparing the study meet with the Acton Town Council, I would include in, if this motion is made, I would include in that Agua Dulce Town Council as well, to receive community input and clearly explain how the data will be used and what the possible implications may be for the communities in unincorporated Los Angeles within the Santa Clara River watershed. And again, a healthy portion of it was taken from the letter that was submitted at the last meeting. And again, the committee, whoever makes the motion can make any motion they want.
If you were to put this off to the next meeting, so we get feedback after they have met with the Acton Town Council, the Agua Dulce Town Council, would that be a big problem?
We can't require them to do that prior to, they're not, that's a scope change. They're not being paid for it.
I think it's hard.
I believe that would be a scope change for them.
Well, you're asking them right here to receive committee input to clearly explain. Could we have them do that before versus later?
Well,
So this is,
I would clarify what Darren is saying is that the consultant, Rich is kind of the spokesperson, but the consultant is a gentleman named Chris Minton from Larry Walker Associates. They have been sharing data, they've been doing legwork, but until they get brought on board as the consultant, they don't have a budget to fly down. He's from Washington, he doesn't have a budget to kind of share, but if they know that it's moving forward, then part of their effort would be the requirement would be that they go to the Acton Agua Dulce Town Council and talk about what kind of monitoring that they think would be helpful, and get feedback from Acton and Agua Dulce. No, this area might be more represented. Maybe this area is more accessible, and don't stay out of here because we don't want you to come here.
So what do you guys think?
But just a comment for Celia, so are we telling the consultants and the people who are going to do this study how they have to do it? Are we changing what they were set up to do in the first place?
Yeah, I honestly don't have the answer because I think we would have to probably go to our council as far as.
The SIP that gets produced will get transmitted to the Regional Oversight Committee, and it will have the funding allocation, and it can have some of these dimensions associated with it. Regional Oversight has the responsibility to make sure that all the SIPs comply with the program. And then they pass their recommendation through, either back to you asking for changes, or through to the supervisors, who are the ones who then actually make them live. So it's unclear to us, sitting here and looking at what we have available to us to refer to, whether a qualification like this in a motion by this committee would propagate through to a transfer agreement and getting the authority of the supervisors attached to it. We just don't know. That's something we have to go back to.
I do believe that Mr. Watson mentioned that he would be doing community outreach. And I think
Once this got approved.
I think our recourse, though, if that failed, is to not fund it the second year.
Then we throw it
So,
away.
it may not filter up through all the groups or all the Wascs, but in terms of ours, if the commitment he made here, and I don't think this language deviates it from it that much, then we're not required to fund it in the second year. So I would imagine he's going to spend some time up in that area. Well, hold on a second, I'm sorry, because Kristen had asked for recognition.
And that was my comment, is that I don't think this is a scope change. So I think this is confirming what he told us and not a scope change.
Right.
And thank you, Chris, because I was going to say, so would it be too difficult if we waited 2 weeks until we got clarification on this? Because our next meeting is in 2 weeks, and it would still be within the March framework
Clarification of what?
of whether or not this was in the scope and whether,
Oh,
you know,
it is, this is what he said that they were going to do.
I was gonna say, and whether or not, you know, the town councils feel, I mean, these are representatives, but they would probably want to go and talk to their town councils and find out, and then come back and talk to us. And, you know, we're still within that framework of March, the March deadline, and that way they would be able to give accurate input.
You were talking earlier about public input, we've received a lot of public input. Okay. Yes?
It's my understanding that the consultant isn't on board and the committee that would seek that input hasn't been developed, and so I don't believe that can happen in 2 weeks.
Is there anyone who would like to make this motion or a different motion?
I'll make a motion as you read it.
Is there a second?
Adding our goals to it.
As you read it.
I second.
Discussion?
Question, if we need to set up now that we're gonna allocate the funding as you suggested over the next few years as well as part of our SIP?
Correct. If this is approved, the first year allocation recommended, ultimately everything has to be approved by the Board of Supervisors, is $111,397 with the balance being placed into the 5-year program.
Alvin, did you document the motion as it was read, as it got amended?
As it was read.
Okay, you should make sure that they write down.
Yeah, and I will give this to you.
You got your amendments written down?
You want me to reread it?
No, no.
Okay.
I just want to make sure somebody wrote it down.
Okay, now I'll hand it over there. Discussion? Ready to vote?
Let me, just from my perspective, from unincorporated area, along with Acton and Agudalce, I have a real hard time moving this forward at this point. It's vague, and if we start the funding, I feel like we need to continue it. It's going to tie up our funds for any future scientific funds down the road that might come up. I'm just uncomfortable moving it forward at this point because we don't have the specifics that we need. The outreach was done to the cities and the counties, but we got really nothing out by us. So I feel like we've been shortchanged, and I've got to be that voice.
Thank you.
Yeah, to that end, again, we're supposed to fund this in the way we talked about over this 5 years, but if a year from now, we're getting feedback that it's not working as intended, it's not been a good program, and we don't have any other scientific studies that are brought for us, are we obligated to continue funding?
No.
We're not.
So there's the allocation 85-10-5, those are the scientific studies, 5 technical resources, 10. Those are maximum, so you don't have to spend any money on scientific studies, and the main portion is provided at 85% of the infrastructure projects. So no, there's no need to apply that. There's not a scientific study.
Any other questions? Okay, let's vote. In favor, please raise your hand. Bruce is 3. Opposed? Sandra and Eric. Okay. So for the final items, I do have a recommendation. And I wanted to know if we were going to fund the scientific study first. Okay, so we are required to set aside $200,000 technical resources for watershed coordinator. We have almost $5 or $6 million in total that would be levied. I understand we don't want to program all of that because it's the first year. There may be exemptions. There are, not everyone will pay their property taxes. Usually there's a delinquency rate though. They're 1 or 2%. So what I would recommend with that is, and we can discuss this, I won't necessarily make it as a motion right away, but the county, the Hasley Canyon Park project is a one-time request, correct, of $2,887,500. And the Newhall Park request is $3 million, but we plan on making subsequent requests in future years for additional regional funding for that project. So what I would recommend is that we fully fund the request for Hasley Canyon Park so that you have full funding, you know it, you know, and you can go full throttle with your project and not have to, wait for additional funding next year. And again, on the Newhall Park project, we would be coming back in subsequent years anyway. We really don't have a mechanism for at least starting the capital part of that until the project's fully funded. So I'd recommend fully funding the $2,887,500 for Hasley Canyon Park, the $200,000 for technical resources, the watershed coordinator, including in there the $111,397 for the scientific study, the first year component of that, and then allocating, and it'll all add up in a minute, $1,801,103 for Newhall Park, which would add up to just an even $5 million. And that would be an allocation of 83% of the anticipated annual regional funding of roughly $6 million. I think 80%, I think last time you said 70% was but I think both of them are very conservative. Our experience is that with direct assessments and taxes, we usually collect 97, 98%. It leaves some wiggle room in case there are a lot of exemptions. But I would also say then so I would recommend an allocation of $5 million, but if it comes in less than that, to take it from the Newhall Park allocation, because again, we're going to be coming back in subsequent years so that County Public Works can proceed with their project fully funded.
Newhall Park that you were recommending?
1,801,103, and that would add up to an even $5 million of the 5.97 million.
What was can you repeat the number you were allocating to that first year on the Newhall Park project?
Sure, 1,801,103.
Both from what Rachel said, actually involved in that. That's right. To make sure that the thing that you want happens, now that there's money to pay for the.
Where is that commitment? I didn't hear about
It's in the scope of work.
No, the scope of work is we'll reach out to the communities and engage them. Right. Because do you know how many times they have been engaged with projects that are huge in our community?
Tracy Constant.
And made us just file. And never affected the project.
Acton.
I can count on one hand and 5 fingers to go over the times that did not happen. Every time. It's check a box, get community input, get stakeholder, whatever. So we just keep running at that, like bulls running at the red, cave. And
there's nothing there once the cave is done. And so I'm struggling to see how this is going to not go down that path. There was nothing in the scope that requires any consent at all. And the email you sent me last week said consent.
Consent, I was wrestling with it, and it doesn't say the word consent, but it was really capturing a requirement that the consultants just don't go and say, this is our start that, we're rolling forward.
That's not good enough. And that was our concern. And the email you sent me, and I told every member of our community, I've had meetings, I've had letters, they've been published in the paper, was it your commitment was to ask for consent? That's what I told you guys, right? That didn't happen.
I think that maybe it's not written in the motion, but that will happen at when they come out. That if there's not consent from the community, we're gonna talk to the consultant and say, no, that's the wrong place to monitor it.
Where's that backstop is all I was looking at. Because everything hangs on that backstop, and it doesn't exist anymore. And it wasn't a scope change because there's no scope to this project. Despite what so I'm confused. I don't understand how what we discussed last week.
I mean, not to me, I mean, to work harder at it. I'd let you know.
I agree with you. It's been submitted into the program.
There is a scope. Yes, but there would, imposing a condition on monitoring outside would not have been a scope change because the matrix, sampling matrix, and modeling matrix has not been developed. And that's the difficulty. And by the way, there's no statutory requirement to not have a scope change. That's just made up. The thing about you can't change the scope, that's completely made up. It's not in Measure W, it's not in the ordinance, it's not by the board. It's nowhere. It's just some policy.
So the thing to look for is that it's not about you can't change the scope. You have to, these committees have to consider the project as it was submitted.
Yes.
So they can't say like, we love that you submitted doing a bioswale, but we'd rather you did a new park project instead.
That's different from saying, we agree with your project, you can do it here but not there. Since you haven't asked to do it there anyway, that is not a scope change. I'm sorry. There's nothing that we asked for.
The truth of the matter is they haven't asked anywhere, I think, to do that, right? The whole idea is to get community engagement during the beginning of the project. This is only what I know from Reddit, right? Is that the community especially the full 5 years of the monitoring program, the whole thing. If you look at their Gantt chart, that's one that goes all the way across.
So the community access.
The idea is to have an iterative monitoring process. Where you say, where do we start? We're going to monitor here. Is there a problem here? Yes, go upstream. Is there a problem here? No. Okay, go back to that zone. Is there a problem here? No, let's go somewhere else. Right?
Now you're making up scope. That's nowhere in the proposal.
It's entirely in the proposal.
Okay. So I have a question for you. If the community access says no, then they won't do it. That's the acid question. If the community say no, we don't want you to sample here because we have no confidence in the difference between septic runoff from Thousand Trails to the riverbed and septic runoff from my house 5 miles from the river. If you can't show me that, then we don't want you to monitor your
I
sample.
don't know enough about some law to answer that question.
Well, then why am I being told that there will be community engagement and it'll work for the community? We'll be happy about it. We need something to be supporting. I'm not, if we don't have the ability to say no, then it's just box checking.
So I've talked to Chris Minton, the consultant. So Rich, City of LA, County of LA, we kind of talked about, hey, is this a good idea? If the city says no, then we probably don't have critical mass and momentum to go forward. The big guys said, yeah, we think this is a good idea. And this consultant, Chris Minton, who has worked on other scientific studies in the region, including something called the copper site-specific objective for the LA River, they were able to look at the regional board's copper limits and say, that one is, the state, the nation has, one size doesn't fit all. That limit is not the most appropriate for our area, for copper. And they were able to provide the scientific data that basically changed that limit and then allowed the agencies in that area to focus their
project resources on projects that will most be for that area. And so Chris Mitten, he's a great scientist, I would say, and his firm. He's one of the vice presidents on it, is Larry Walker and Associates. They are the consultants that help prepare e-winds, also the monitoring, the coordinated integrated monitoring. So they're very knowledgeable of the area already. He's the one that drafted the scope and then shared it with all the Wasc, and it became the application. Rich hit the button send, but this gentleman, Chris, and I talked to him directly, and I was telling him, here's what we heard from Acton. He says, no, yes, there's definitely budget for community engagement. He's like, I don't really even know that area. I would want to ask them where should we monitor. This is all verbal, and I understand your concern. It's not written in, but if they get brought on board, that's what they're going to come and do.
And if we say no, they can still go ahead and monitor inactive, right?
I tried to get it for this today.
Rich Watson, right?
Yeah, and he said, well, we probably don't even want to go to, you probably don't even have storm. First of all, you don't need to have storm drains to be able to do sampling for TMDL compliance. Just ask the folks to do it, right? So I don't know what he's talking about, because he's and you know that's true. Just look at what's going on at the lakes. So I have yet to hear
Lakes have their own TMDL, don't they, or no?
Okay, I will talk to you about that in 2 seconds, but let me just finish the sentence. I have yet to hear anybody say something to me that makes me not be concerned for the future of all of our systems. And I will tell you what happened with the lakes. The TMDL came out, they did monitoring in the lake, then they came up with a model, right? And the model said, well, 99.999% is because A&F used to stock the lake with fish, and 0.02% is from storm drains, and 0.02% is, and I'm making numbers up a little bit here, from they have a small septic sewage treatment system, and then 0.0000002 is from the septic treatment systems themselves. No monitoring data to confirm that. It's just that the model was told to allocate responsibility to the septic systems. So the model came back and said, we think 0.0002 is the septic systems, even though they couldn't confirm it. It's just, a model is like baking a cake.
They try to confirm?
You can't confirm it.
Oh, okay.
It's like baking a cake. It's baking a cake. You put eggs, flour, sugar into your thing, you mix it up, bake it, and pull it out. You take a little crumb and you analyze it, you're going to find eggs, flour, sugar. Because you've told the model to find eggs, flour, sugar. The modeling inputs are boundary conditions, and your model will spit out a number for septic systems if you tell it to. And because of that, every person in Lake Elizabeth and Lake Hughes now has to retrofit their septic system to the tune of $40,000 every damn one. And that's my excuse me, I should have said that much. But so the process that they followed to get to that point is the one we just agreed to start in the Santa Clara River in our community. Now, I am not hearing anybody explain to me how that is not going to happen.
That's identifiable harm. You mentioned that
Yeah,
we don't know. I live in the community. And one of the things that I'm just afraid of is that, and I agree with you. In fact, I'm part of I'm a pastor in a church that has a septic tank modern system that has an aerator and all this stuff. And because we're considered commercial, we're monitored once a month.
You have a WDR, waste discharge.
So we have to have that. Well, now they've changed it quarterly, but it was once a month. And so if something's identified, there's really no way to identify whether it's coming out of my septic tank, even though it has that process, or my neighbor was across the way, because we're sharing the same water table.
Right.
And so for somebody to come and just say, well, we identified one and we're blaming you all, that's a harm. And so we need to have language that identifies that if a harm is found, that it gets identified, pinpointed, and not generalized, because that's a harm. Why should I make you pay for what I'm doing, and vice versa?
Right.
And I tried to demonstrate, 2 meetings ago, I have data from Waterworks District 37. Those wells are all downhill from and downstream of approximately, my estimate based on the maps is about 90% of our septic systems. I asked for historic data. They have no bacterial at all. For the last, I think it was actually, I think it was 10 years. And so I am confident that septics are not the problem because of that. But I told you this last week. One of your guys, he said, oh, well, if you don't think Acton's a problem, why don't you just support the project? I said, I never said Acton is a problem. I think Acton probably is contributing problems. But it isn't the residential septic systems. It's the institutional things, and that is exactly what I said. And your modeling, your modeling system cannot tell the difference. And so until I hear that it can, I'm telling you that I'm going to advocate no sampling and monitoring in our community until I get that confirmation. And that's all I asked for up there. I said I support the project, the town council supports the DNA stuff and all that, that's really important. But if you can't give us the confirmation that you can tell with 100% certainty that it's his septic system, not his septic system, and I'm being honest,
At the same time,
then it's a non-starter.
but didn't you just say that, or maybe let me ask that differently, because that sounded antagonistic. I didn't mean it to me. A moment ago, I thought I learned from you that you can't tell one septic from the next.
Right.
So at the same time saying like we need 100% certainty to identify the septic system, hopefully, but you just said we can't do that.
Well, I've never seen a model that could. This scope is supposed to develop a model. So what I was trying to articulate 2 meetings ago and again today is your model has to not only be able to do all those things, but you have to convince us that it can. And if it can, then fine. I'm good with it. I'm a scientist. I'm a freaking environmental engineer. Of course I care about protecting groundwater. But I have seen, and I
You drink?
I drink water.
Yeah, me too.
I have seen this machine completely roll over the waves. It's the same machine, whether the faces might change, but the game remains the same.
Yeah.
And I see it heading towards us, and I don't see how it's not. So maybe one of you can explain to me why it's not.
What I was hearing from you on the phone was that we wouldn't want one monitoring station downstream of the whole Acton community, because then it's like, well, where is it really coming from? There's a RV park that maybe they're not taking, maybe they're not being responsible. And so that when the consultant would come out and engage the community, it would be a good suggestion that there be one for Acton residential, and then maybe another location for like the RV community kind of thing. And so that way, even though, yeah, if you took one sample, you can't tell where it's coming from, but if you have more than one monitoring grab sample, then you'd be, oh, this one's really high, this one's really low.
The key piece of this story, though, that you're telling now is it's downstream, no pun intended, it's downstream of a different decision of like, are there human markers in the river?
Oh, yes,
Downstream of
right.
And if there are none, we're done.
We
right?
have said over and over,
Or
we
they're
don't
done.
have a problem with the marker part.
Right. What I mean is that if the broad first sweep says like, oh look, there's no human markers coming down the Santa Clara from Agua Dulce and Acton, like, okay, done.
Happy to have
We're
some.
out.
But if there
right?
isn't, that's.
If there is, then you start going up and trying to figure it out.
No, that's what we have to worry about. That's what we
Well,
were.
there's 2 pieces of this, though, right? Because if there are, we have to fix it. Like we collectively, you guys too, we want to fix it. Right? If there are human marker bacteria in the river, we want to fix that.
Yeah, except
Let's
for
go
the
figure out
fixes
how.
that have been applied in the past have pasted entire rural communities
No, that I totally agree.
unreasonably.
That's why
No,
Bruce's story
and
makes
so
sense. Right.
I'm going to insist on the assurances that that's not going to happen here before you pull one sample.
Sounds like you're volunteering for the technical advisory committee.
I can assure you.
She won't be appointed.
No board of supervisors will invite you to that, and I know the county will. So that's not going to happen.
Interesting. Yeah.
Trust me. So until we get the confirmation that the model, you want to take samples, half the modeling is dependent on where the samples are taken. That's a big part of it too. So no, we want to know your model's going to be good and give us the specificity we need, but we don't even want a sample one taken. So, you know, all the assurances about we probably aren't going to go there, you probably don't have anything, we're not really interested, we're not going to, that means nothing.
Yeah, because we don't know yet.
The project hasn't started yet.
Yeah, you're right.
But it is true, if the model is flawed, the result must be flawed.
Devastating.
Right, and-
Yeah,
and
but
so-
you can't, it doesn't matter, it's still going to be applied.
Somebody's got a famous quote that all models are wrong, but some
Yes,
are useful.
right.
I don't remember whose quote that is, right? But
Well, I'm glad it's really funny because you guys just approved of it. I'm sorry, it's not fun.
It's,
I want to talk a little bit about the Santa Clara River nutrients.
I need to pack up to the next thing.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Pleasure meeting you.
So we had talked about that one as well.
I don't know, you're talking about nitrates?
Yes, the Santa Clara River Lakes
The Lakes District. The Lakes
district. It's a nutrients. TMDL nitrates is one of the nutrients, right? And so we looked at that TMDL, and it is focused on not broadly all septics. It's on the ones that are contributing nutrients to the.
But the model said they're all contributing collectively, to, and it cannot distinguish the ones where they do and don't. So are you telling me that only some septics have to be retrofit?
Yes.
Because that's not what TMDL says.
So the study, it says that there could be a study done to identify those that are contributing nutrients, and then I shot this out to Jenny Newman. She's second in command of the regional board. She used to work directly on that, but she's assigned Regional Water Quality
That's the
Control Board.
state agency that establishes TMDL.
Right. And I was explaining to her, it was like, hey, there are the residents that had concern that is a sweeping everybody, just because you have a septic, you've got to retrofit it $40,000. And she's like, no, that is not the case. You can do the study, and there'll be a way to demonstrate, if you've got a new septic system that's well maintained, not contributing nutrients to the lake, then of course you're not going to have to.
So the property owner commissions a study.
I don't know if that's some details that I've asked
Because the residents of the lakes have not been told that. And they've been told they all have to retrofit. The cost will be, depending on the septic system, up to $40,000. So some are probably 15, some are 25, some will be.
But this is the one where like, that would be really great news to report back. So we started down that path, and I believe we are in line with what the regional board intended for that. But we're going to do some more follow-up just to tie the loose ends up.
Well, you don't have to follow up with me. You need to follow up with the folks at the lakes, because we've been communicating back and forth with the residents of the lakes, and as far as they're concerned, all of them say so.
One of the concerns to me in that is that the fees and prices that are attached to that is just basically from abuse. And I say that because it is, once something becomes mandatory, I can charge whatever I want because we have to do it. Case in point, I recently sold my house in Agua Dulce, and I had some plumbers come and ask because of my
it changes, the runoff changes depending on the impervious. So if there's a lot of concrete and development, there's more runoff.
But it's 10%. Why could I not get more than 2 people to give a darn about a community that's outside of Santa Clara
They decide
to act on this?
and then they.
I'm sorry, what you voted on is not what you voted on. And I'm going to have to, I had to go back to the town, and I don't know what I'm going to say. Because it doesn't, there's no point in discussing why or why it didn't happen. It happened, and now I have to explain that it happened, and we have to come up with a course of action.
Well, I think I invite you to come out to Acton and explain that to the town. I would appreciate that. And I think I said that a couple meetings ago, and I would appreciate maybe you, since you come out and speak to Acton. I think that would be wonderful. Because it's not fair to Jackie. So I would appreciate it if you would come out. And I'm an Acton resident, and I'm also with the Acton Agua Dulce newspaper, and my husband's on the town council, and
yes,
I would appreciate it if you would come out.
There was another lady that was taller, that was Angie, and she had said she had said that she'd like me to come out sometime too. Send me the next Acton Town Council meeting. I can talk on.
I'm the correspondence secretary. I'll send it on. Thank you. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that was a deficiency on my part then, that I didn't get that word consent in there. I was reading that word requirement of engagement.
It's the only word we cared about, and you can see why.
But you know, the next town council meeting is Monday. It's not enough time to get it in our local newspapers for people to come out.
But we have a meeting the next Monday.
So
So
That way we can put it in the papers, come out to the meeting.
we have March 16th, I think, is a meeting.
That would be
So,
awesome.
and we need to figure out better how our concerns are reflected in what this committee does. That's the question. We could sit here and talk to we're green and blue, but doesn't seem to matter.
I'm trying to capture as much.
No, but your vote didn't show it, and nobody's vote showed it except for Mary's and Sandra's. And we were told that this Measure W is going to capture watershed area residents' concerns. I'm just not seeing it, and I don't understand how to see it. I don't understand with this makeup how it's ever going to be possible.
And one of my concerns is what they brought up earlier was that, you know, when they will approve a budget on a project and then come out and talk to us about what they're going to do. There's no motivation for them to move off that project because they already have the budget. I compare it to our car breaks down, the wife and I talk about a new car, all of a sudden I come home with a brand new car and try to sell her on this new car. What are we going to do? The car's already in the parking lot and I signed the papers.
Yep.
And that's basically what you're doing to us when you bring this scientific project. This is a project where we want your input. Well, we already have it. Well, what input can we give? And like she asked, if we say no, what happens? They're not going to erase the budget because they got the budget for the year.
And Heather's already told, after that very first meeting, Heather came up to me, we talked at length. Santa Clarita wants Acton and Agua Dulce to take responsibility for the biological bacterial problems they have in the city of Santa Clarita. They are convinced that we are a major cause of it. Straight up, she told me this.
Okay.
And so it's like, that's why they're doing this. That's why they're not going to say they're going to sample in Acton, but they have every intention. She absolutely said straight up, oh no, we're going to be monitoring this and Acton. So I don't understand.
Well,
So how are we going to protect it from that?
We'll weigh in. I will weigh in, and I'll talk directly to the consultant. They have every intent to engage the community and get
What does engage mean?
to come out and talk and hear what your concerns are, offer counter as to why maybe that is the best. But if that has been told that no, there's a better location, they're going to work it out until they come to kind of consensus. I'm not going to go as far as consent, but me as their county
I didn't
rep
take
will
consensus. I don't think we're going to get that. So what happens when we don't get consensus? What do? Do we come back here and say, because Santa Clarita is going to approve this every year for the next 5 years. And Santa Clarita is 80 and 90% of the votes.
I'll use the leverage and input that I have since I've been part of those guys' teams to influence that.
Okay, well, so here's, I guess, the bottom line frustration for me is that I think we had a very reasonable request. We supported your biological marker DNA stuff. We supported the entire effort and simply asked for consent and assurances that the model will not do to us what has already been done to the lakes. Those are reasonable requests, and they fell on deaf ears. So I don't perceive how this whole effort is going to have any future in our community. And somebody needs to explain that to me. If you don't have to do it right now, but somebody needs to come back to us, maybe when you come back and say, I know all this stuff is going down, and yeah, and be honest, yes, if it shows that there's bacteria, whatever, then potentially all the septic systems will have to be retrofit. If we can't tell where it's coming from, you need to guarantee to me that that's not going to happen, or be straight that it could happen.
Okay.
Because, well, frankly, I'm the only one up there saying these things, and people are taking a lot on faith because I don't work for the county. I'm an environmental engineer, but I'm not a water quality engineer, or a water quality civil engineer, I should say. So these people are taking a lot of faith, and you guys have gone over, approved it, and basically said, don't worry, Jackie, everything will be fine.
And maybe it would be helpful when you do come out, is if we give you the questions beforehand, so that when you come out, you already kind of have an answer instead of saying, I'll get back to you, because that's frustrating. Maybe we can submit some questions to you so that when you come out to talk to us, you'll maybe have some answers.
Yeah, I would.
That might be helpful.
I would welcome that, but I don't put that requirement on you that.
Yeah, but I think it would be,
Whatever you'd like to
I
ask.
think that would be helpful, because it's very frustrating when you go to a meeting, oh, I don't know that answer, I'll get back to, and we're already trying to get the people out to a town hall type
I
thing.
think I have a good, there could be more, but, yes. So I
Yeah,
think
no,
it's
so
all
definitely
documented,
we'll make sure we have time to do
But
that.
above all, we want honesty. Because the last thing in the world I want, and we do this, we submit the letters, the questions, excuse me, to Edison and to Waterworks District 37, everything, and that's a fair ask, and we submit it. We can't control the situation once the discussion starts. It's dynamic, but we do our best to prepare what we're looking for. But I tell you right now, what we're looking for here is complete honesty and complete candidness on what could happen to our community. Because right now, I'm the only one who's saying these things, because I'm the only one who knows what's going on up at the lakes, right? You didn't even know what's going on at the lakes, and that's not a knock on you. I'm just saying that if that can never happen in our town, then fine, tell us. But if it can, then tell us that it could. Because we need to know the deal. So.
And I was incorrect. Mary Johnson is no longer an alternate. She's on the board, on the committee. So I was incorrect in saying that earlier. So one of the things I did notice in this meeting room is past Santa Clarita mayors on the wall. So I thought that was kind of cool. And the ones that have passed have a black ribbon over their photos, which is a really neat thing. At least one positive thing can come out of this, at least something nice, so.